So it's just a goat tragedy. Right, I get you. Jade Druid versus a Jade Druid. This is all about who gets the biggest jades. Odd that.
No.
It really is.
Is it not who gets the jades faster?
Right, that's the way of making the bigger jades. So you've got to get either get lots of jades or make your big jades quicker than your opponent makes their jades. So yeah, it's the same deal. Either way you word it.
So what were we looking for mulligan-wise then? Ramp, I would assume, from both parties is very important.
Yeah, interesting. Greece threw away the Jade Spirit there, because I feel that's like a good middle ground, that if you don't get everything you want, it's still a Jade on the board quite early, and you should get something. You've got Jade Blossom, you've got Wild Growth, you've got Innovate. So I think if you're on the coin, I don't feel the need to throw 4 cards like that. I just keep my Jade Spirit, so I've got something happening early on. Dr. Hippie, on the other hand, I think he has to throw this all away. You can keep Aya, but any card with the word Jade on it you can consider keeping, but she's a little slow.
Huh. Well,
yeah.
Dr. Hippie, apparently you're not talking constant nonsense, Dorinda.
Cool.
Keeping a card with Jade in is apparently a good thing.
This is not the worst thing to do, just keep Jade cards.
However, it does worry me, that hand. It's pretty high in mana value.
I mean, something you have to do with Druid is trust your deck. It's always been the same. You draw a lot of cards with Druid, you have a lot of things that do very similar stuff. You're going to draw into good stuff. A lot of the time that's a Yogg. So this game's going to be interesting, because Logan's going to make a load of Jades, and Dr. Hippie's going to cry about his bad draw, and then he's going to cast Yogg.
And then see what Yogg can do.
See what Yogg can do for you today.
Now, there is the option, if he wants, to innovate, coin, nourish. Seems like a lot, though.
Yeah, you normally want to space out your ramp. You might consider innovate, nourish, but I don't think you want to throw the coin into the mix as well.
Yeah. Because then you could innovate, nourish next turn, and then you can coin into Aya, right?
Yeah.
So that works out a little bit better.
But you might not even do that, but he'll hope not to have to. But he's delaying that decision as long as he dares, and that's a Jade Blossom. This game has turned on its head.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Turn 4 Fandral, turn 5 Nourish, and at the moment, there's no sensible way of dealing with a turn 4 Fandral. That's going to be interesting as well. Fandral into Nourish used to just be, you've won the game in the mirror.
Oh, well, speaking of no sensible way to deal with Fandral, Logan can have a little sneaky Fandral of his own if he wants.
Yeah, and that's going to put his Fandral in front of the other Fandral.
So it's not about the Jade race, it's about the Fandral race.
Fandral off.
A Fandral off. And there is actually no way. You said there was no reasonable way for Greece to deal with Ukraine's Fandral, but there is just no way for Ukraine to deal with Greece's Fandral.
Right. Greece obviously would be a little bit concerned because they've seen Ukraine have got a terrible hand, and they'll be wondering if Swipe's in there, which would just wipe out the Fandral. But then you just keep the momentum and do something else the turn after. So I think you're fine to do it.
Yeah, I like just quitting out Fandral here. Okay, where do you lose this game then? Because we speak about winning the game is just getting your Jades out and just getting ahead. But is there any, like, key errors you could make as a Jade Druid? Is it using ramp at the wrong time? Is it a play like this? Is this too risky, do you think?
There's a spot that sometimes come up, but I think this is fine. There's a spot that sometimes comes up where you've got to decide what to do with your second Jade Idol. So do I shuffle or do I just play it for tempo? And that decision needs to be made on its merits at the time. You can't just fall into a pattern. There are times where if you play that for tempo, you win the game. And there's times where if you shuffle it away, you win the game. Like you should, in general, if I had to give you a rule of thumb, you tend to shuffle the second one away. But there's times where just slapping an 8-8 on the board just wins you the game. Because it fuels your other Jades as well.
Of course.
I've seen Calento before just go turn 1, shuffle Jades in some matchups. That's because he's kind of lunatic.
Logan and Boss having fun with just praying to the gods. I mean, of course, not to the old gods, because they don't need their help right now, but they just want this Fandral to survive. They know how important it could be.
Yeah, they've got that Nourish in their hand. They might have to innovate it, but even if they innovate it, they'll draw into something else to do.
I have no idea what's going on over there in Greece, however...
Well, he's trying to set fire to Logan's beard.
Well, yeah, that's what it looked like at first glance, but I believe they were just trying to just sway and go with the motions, you know. Celebrate the good times.
That was one way to become famous, to be fair. Just set fire to your teammate while he's winning. Has Logan won like one match? Like, I think he's won once. He was like, I know in the group stages he just lost all the time, but they still got through. He's like the sacrificial lamb. Or goat.
So you can nourish into Earthen Scales, into hero power. Or Feral Rage works as well. Feral Rage
Why
now.
not?
Earthen Scales is a cleaner way to do it, I guess, but either way, the fact you can deal with the opposing Vandal now.
That lighter must be getting hot by now, I'm scared.
Yeah, we don't encourage lighters at home. Of course. We do not condone this. Thumbs up from the boys of Greek. Greece. Greek boys.
Still no way for Dr. Hippie to just do what he wants to do. Can't even get his webcam on at this point.
And at the moment, for Dr. Hippie, this is looking like a real goat song.
Wow. He hasn't even got a go-to play here.
He really doesn't. Completely right.
This.
It just looks like...
Don't want to go to war with me, son. What can he even do? He can start to do what we were saying earlier and just work towards that yogg. And in the meantime, occupy the board and hope this all, just goes away.
Hope it all goes away. I mean, I guess for Dr. Hippie, what he can be happy about is that he hasn't seen much Jade yet.
Right, and Fandul's done its damage. It doesn't tend to keep doing the damage.
Yeah.
It's only 4 cards, I think. The Ferals, the Wraths, the Nourish, and the Jade Idols, which you don't even necessarily want to shuffle in, that are really damaging this matchup. And obviously that's a lot of stuff, but it's kind of done most of it.
So, and this is the thing, because you have that Feral Rage in your hand, you might be naturally tempted to lean towards using it. However, Aya is so strong as well.
Yeah, Aya does the double Jade thing, which I know it's a really simplistic way of putting it, and we keep using it, but just boost that Jade count is pretty handy. But Jade Blossom's going to allow you to do that quicker at the risk of missing 1 turn. So this turn would be kind of mediocre, but then you'd have a better turn afterwards. Could actually play Jade Blossom, trade in your Fandral, which is a shame, and then just swipe everything away, pretty much.
So with Quest Row getting nerfed, does this just open a path to Jade Druid to just dominate? And all Druid players are just laughing in the corner, saying, no pesky Quest Row.
I'm in charge now.
Yeah, you're one of these players, aren't you? You are. I can imagine you on ladder as Jade Druid enjoying. You were a combo Druid player, weren't you?
9-9. What are you gonna do now, kid? Yeah, that's me. Combo Druid was good. I liked Combo Druid. Get your opponent out of 14, watch them squirm, use the rope a bit, hit them for 14, get added as a friend and have a friendly chat.
They always are friendly chats, aren't they?
They usually are.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I joke about it, but actually since casting the global games, I've had more people add me and just say, hey, you cast the global games. And then they give me
And then
stuff.
you get the abuse.
And then they give the abuse afterwards.
Yeah, they did before the game.
Yeah.
Now you don't even have to play the game to get the abuse anymore. But yeah, I've had the same in fairness. People out there have been really nice. So if you see me on ladder, add me and tell me to do one.
Yeah, if you are at rank 17, then you may... I mean, it is the start of the season, so you probably are, like, up there on one of the regions.
We're supposed to be watching Greece take on the mighty Ukraine.
I mean, meanwhile, whilst we've been blabbering on, Dr. Hippie did get a very important swipe off the top, which allowed him to deal with the board. However, Aya Blackpaw has just put a stum to that plan.
Yeah, Ukraine's got a decent enough hand, though, with the Nourish into Innovate should set something up and see where they go from there. They've still got Yogg as a massive option going forward later. There's no hurry to get that Yogg out there.
So what, Auctioneer into Innovate into Nourish?
That's an option. I think you might just Nourish and Innovate and see where you are. Maybe just plop the ooze on the table because it's not doing anything at any point.
True. I think I like Auctioneer.
I don't mind it, but I think if you Nourish this turn, you're likely to pick up like a Jade Idol, those cards, the cheap cards, Earthen Scales, and then next turn you can Auctioneer even more.
Time waits for no one.
Because you have this lot. Oh, there's a claw.
Huh.
Yeah. That got us.
Why?
Because it kills
early
things on turn
removal?
1. Yeah, why not?
I guess it's the same reason why we've seen Pyromancer being included in a couple of Jade Druids, right?
Mistress of Mixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something to combat that early game.
Yep, I agree. I think people are looking for something just to... Druid's weakness is that aggro at the start. It's not that weak either. You just need 1 card, 2 cards to swing it. That's why people try so hard to find that 1 or 2 cards. I'm not a massive fan of the U's, personally. It's so good against mage.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason you lose to mage, right?
Right.
Is because of Medivh. So
But
if you have an ooze, then you can't lose.
Ooze and you can't lose. Nice. I don't think you lose very often anyway. I understand that having played the mage side of it quite a lot this week, I do get that how frustrating you go, Medivh, I've got a chance.
Yeah.
But should you have a chance anyway? I'm not so sure you should.
You know, you snooze, you lose. So now
I'm not going to play your games, Gaskin.
You just play more Jade Spirits.
Right.
Into another Jade Spirit. How do you answer this? And the answer is probably Yogg.
Yeah, the only question is, do you do it next turn after you've auctioneered for 1 million cards, or you just Yogg them?
I mean, you might have to. If you're worried about a swipe, if you're worried about Feral Rage, you could just be dead.
He's going to Yogg them. Pretty sure that's what this is doing.
So you play your spells first.
Yeah.
You can even Hero Power, then double innovate out Yogg if you want to.
You might innovate Yogg and keep the second one, because sometimes you get a card in your hand you wish, oh, if only I had 2 mana knocking about. You definitely do the first innovate. And yeah, Hippie's ready to Yogg. I like Yogg.
So if he doesn't Yogg, then that would be crazy.
Because
but
you would have wild growth after auctioneering.
Yeah. There is 19 damage on board,
right,
20
so he's
with
dead
Hero
to
Power.
Feral Rage or Swipe.
Unless he Hero Powers himself, and then he's 1 off. Claw also keeps him alive.
Alright, so he's going to double innovate Yogg, I think.
Well played. Time waits for no one.
Here it comes.
Yeah, just start praying to the gods. We would like some removal, of course.
Like a boss is telling Yogg what to do. He's trying to use the Force.
I've also seen Yogg actually give Jade Idols.
He's telling Logan not to look.
Yeah, Logan shouldn't look. I spoke about those Jade Idols.
Wow, you're looking at the monitor, right?
Actually, probably would have been better if he'd summoned one in most instances. And he just silenced himself. Oh, no. Ripperinos.
Pepperonis.
So he can Wrath and look for lethal.
Yep.
If you can find another Feral Rage, that would be enough. Already used 1 swipe, so that's not going to do it. Well, he's just going to have to delay it ever so slightly, but I don't think he'll mind too much, because he knows that this game is pretty much done and dusted now.
And Ukraine used up their get out of jail free card, which was the auctioneer with all the innovates on the Yogg.
Okay, I thought you were saying Yogg was the
it was.
get out of jail free card.
They had one or the other. They couldn't have both get out of jail free cards.
And the trouble is, Yogg sometimes isn't a get out of jail free card. It's an attempt to get out of jail and actually find yourself back in prison most of the time. And you've just wasted the card.
You don't look like a fan at all.
I mean, it just seems to go wrong so often for me. Well, Logan gets the win and starts Greece off in the way that they need to go on. 3-0 would 100% confirm them to the next round. But just winning in general and going 2-1 will probably have them in a very good position anyway. We've seen a couple of groups already finish today, and those third places are on 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So 2-1 already looking like it's pretty much there.
Yeah, you only have 2 groups on 1 and 2, and then 2 and 1 becomes. It's really messy to talk about, but basically, if 2 doesn't get through, I will.
Don't say it. Either way, tomorrow we can have more confirmation when we can take a further look at the groups after today, as Greece 1-0 up, Logan getting the win, and now we move on to Deathlord versus Kalento. Oh, what a matchup.
Yep, pretty powerful players here. Deathlord's favourite place is Crete, because it shows that nature and humans can get along in harmony.
Is where?
Crete.
Is where?
How do you say it?
Well, I don't know where that is.
C-R-E-T-E.
Oh,
Crete. Crete.
I don't know. I don't want to say now, because I feel like if I get it wrong as well.
So what do you think it is?
Probably Crete as well. Crete.
See?
Crete.
So he's going to criticise my
pronunciation,
which he does every week.
I just didn't know what it was. Like, genuinely, I don't know. I still don't know what it is.
It's an island.
Oh, it's an island. Okay, great. Well, yeah, it sounds peaceful.
It's in Greece. It's an island. Just take that as assumption.
I'm going to Google it in a bit. Meanwhile, my pages are blown over. Do you want another fact? I haven't got that many on Greek. And
Greece has some islands. There you go.
It does.
Fact.
So we were talking about Ukraine and how they kind of greet people.
Yeah.
In Greece, don't wave. Apparently, waving at someone in Greece with an open palm is offensive, and they greet each other with a closed fist.
I dare you to wave it like a boss.
No, I would never wave it like a boss. I would just greet him with a nice fist bump, and he would appreciate that.
Okay.
So if you ever go to Greece, fist bump's the way. Don't that. No. See?
See you all doing
thinking about it, but you shouldn't do it. On the other side for Ukraine, they invented the gas lamp.
They invented like all of them together?
Well, there was one man in Ukraine, not the whole country. Just
They
wanted
just
together.
just lamp, it won't light. How do we sort this out?
Need some light. Gas. No, yeah, a man, he invented the gas lamp.
So what's his name?
See, I'm annoyed because I was going to write down the name, but it was a name I couldn't pronounce, so I thought, that's fine.
How did you
no
think
one's going to
I
ask
wasn't
me.
going to ask you what the name was? I always ask you, how long was the tunnel? How big was the sheep?
And
how
usually
many
I know
letters
it,
are in the
right?
word? What was the guy's name?
I don't know. I'll find out later. So we're currently waiting for the Greek players to get ready. The matchup is going to be Rogue versus Priest. Now, Priest, Neil, only one Priest deck has been brought to HCT this weekend.
But this is Kalento playing.
But, yeah, this is Kalento. So, okay, if it's Kalento playing, what knowledge do you have then of Kalento and his Priest?
Well, he played Light Warden Priest to a #1 legend.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
Is that the Light Warden Priest that runs one Light Warden or two Light Wardens?
I don't know that.
Because I know the deck that's being brought to HCT by... Oh, I had his name written down.
Yeah.
I'm going to find it out. I'm still going to do it. It's X-Hope.
Beat me to it.
He has one Light Warden.
Right.
And it's a Lyra combo priest, essentially. You just don't... You have the one Light Warden. It means if it doesn't survive, then, well, your chances of that win condition are gone.
So do you know where Kalento's favourite place is, by the way? And it's not the face.
Ooh, I don't know. Hit me.
Apparently it's Old Kiev, where you can wear armour, you can shoot bows, you see siege machines.
Wow.
It just sounds like he's been playing too much Warcraft.
Does a little bit.
But,
I'm not sure that's a real place.
Oh, hang on. Hang on, Mr. Fact. I say one thing,
he's
and
just
I
living in,
instantly
like,
get, like, the jealousy attack.
A fantasy
He knew
world.
a fact.
How dare you steal a fact from me? To be fair, my facts on the Ukraine have been pretty poor. But
I don't know, they invented the gas lamp between
they
them
did.
somehow.
I have one more Greek fact, but I'll save that for another time, as we are going to dive into the second game of the day. Priest versus Rogue, and as always, it's going to be the Quest Rogue. I said as always, we did see a Jade Rogue earlier. That was interesting.
I want to put one thing right about Deathlore.
You want to put one thing right?
So
He's Brock Lesnar, or...?
he's definitely Brock Lesnar. He said he was going to end streaks. That makes him Brock Lesnar.
Okay.
We've been saying like for weeks that basically, like a boss said, Deathlore gets really nervous. You can see him concentrating really deeply, therefore he looks nervous. He cornered me at DreamHack and was like, nah, I don't get nervous. Like a boss just made it up to troll me.
He cornered you. How dare you?
How dare you call me nervous? I was nervous, trust me.
I'm Brock Lesnar.
Then I'll
I had streaks.
take you to Quest Rogue City. But yeah, I'm just going to stop right now and go. But yeah, he basically was like, he's cool. He doesn't get nervous.
Right, so this is an interesting hand for the Quest Rogue. Back when Quest Rogue was first a thing, I used to say, oh yeah, you just play the quest on turn 1, why wouldn't you? And then it was like, oh no, actually, you play Firefly on turn 1 because why wouldn't you? Because you're not going to be bouncing that back. However, when you've got a small hand like this, for Greece and for Deathlore, you need that Firefly with a potential bounce back to actually regenerate your hand in some situations.
But you also need to be careful what you do, because against some other things, you need that Firefly on the board, otherwise you just get smashed in the face while you're messing around trying to get 1/2s in your hand.
Yeah, so it's not as simple a decision as you would have thought when you first look at a hand like that.
Kalento, half of this team are in China, waiting for Shanghai, which will be on this channel at the weekend for the Spring Championships.
Yeah, Spring Championships, of course, something that we're all looking forward to, especially the players involved. It's always a fantastic occasion when we get together for the championships.
Yep, 16 of the very best, 4 from each region. Can see that at the weekend. Probably check battle.net for details of times and things.
But I mean, that does demonstrate how good a team Ukraine are.
Because they've got 2 out of their team
2 players in
qualified. Only 4 from Europe when.
The top 16 in the world, right? So, like, that's
and Europe's the
amazing.
best region.
I hope you like my invention.
So it's not like 2 of the best 3
You
or
can say
4
that
in the world.
confidently, can you?
Yeah.
All right.
I play on NA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh.
That lowers it by default.
Yeah, that's true, it definitely does. Crystalline Oracle, can it draw him anything significant? Youthful Brewmaster. Now, could that come in handy later? I'm trying to think of anything he could bounce back.
Glimmerroot?
Also, that is a mind control there for Kalento as well.
Yeah, Kalento's always liked dabbling with Priest.
The trouble is, you can dabble with Priest all you like, but when you are playing quite a slow Priest and you're up against Quest Rogue, you're not going to be sat in a pretty situation. We
you're
saw
not.
we
You
saw
really
Control
are.
Priest earlier. It was the Shadow Horror Priest that we saw earlier go up against Quest Rogue, and it tried its best with its removal, with its Dragonfire potions, with pint-sized potion plus Shadow Horror.
That's what he thinks of it.
Yeah, it's just a 3-2.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do for newer players in Hearthstone, by the way. Is just go, this card's got all these combo values, all these. I'm just gonna play it. It's just, you still need stats on board. There's, especially against this rogue deck. Just fundamentals of the game. Put numbers on the board.
And Deathlord's probably saying, I wish I had that Brewmaster for myself, to be honest.
He's got 2 vanishes.
Yeah, he does.
Slow.
It is a bit slow, and it means that he's just playing nothing at the moment.
Yeah, this is a turn. This is like a holding turn, right? He needs to see his next couple of cards before he decides how to proceed completing the quest. But he can't afford to just do nothing. Is he going to take 9 from this and just trade into it with his face, maybe, and drop a Firefly?
I think so.
Just
It's whether
take 6
well,
and
yeah,
Firefly, yeah.
yeah, probably take 6. You might just take 3 if Colento's that scared, but I can't imagine he's that scared of a Firefly.
I think the problem is you can't afford to be scared. You've got to hit them in the face where you can.
Yeah.
I mean, you win the very long game, but you never get there. So tricky turn here. So I think you run your face into this. This, is, of course, speeds up the process, though, of you dying. So, yeah, choosing just to let Colento do the work.
And I think this is the argument from some people about the Quest Rogue nerf, is, of course, we've had a... I mean, that bounce back effect would have been good now, right?
I'm so happy.
Like... Do you just play it for the lols? Like, that's the best part. At some point later, you just play a quest. Actually, it will combine well with Lyra. Nice 1-mana spell.
Yeah, you save it for Lyra. Good call. 0-mana spell with Radiant Elemental.
What I was saying about Quest Road, like, this is the situation where you're at turn 4 and they're nowhere near completing that quest. The Shadow Step off the top has helped. But we've played thousands of games or hundreds of games where Quest Rogue has just absolutely blown us away.
Yep.
People have complained, and that's why we've ended up with the nerf. However, it's a very difficult deck to pilot, and I will say that, and I will take as much grief and abuse that anyone wants to send me on Twitter, but this deck has shown how it's grown over the Ungoro expansion. We've seen players absolutely show us great skill sets from playing this.
Yeah, it's a deck that has really distinguished the very best players from the fairly good mediocre legends, you know, top 1,000 legend who can obviously pilot the deck just fine, and these guys who are playing at massive open tournaments week in and week out. Some of those guys now are just doing things with this deck. They're winning games we wouldn't expect. Like we saw Zixo win a game recently where he just killed them with the minions because he had no other way to win.
Didn't even play the quest. He played the quest, didn't even complete the quest. And that was truly a spectacle, actually. It's one that I will remember very fondly for a long time.
So, just getting what they can down without ruining their chance of doing the quest now. Just generating something to slow it all down. I don't think they're... I think something you and Falcone highlighted last week is that Greece communicate by shouting at each other and telling each other they're wrong. Where they were playing against Austria, who sort of communicate through sweetness and light. And Austria won that one. But I like this shouting approach myself.
Shouting it sometimes is great. Gets your point across. However, doesn't answer all questions sometimes, Neil.
Sometimes it's just the wrong thing to do.
Yep. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
Know when to bite your tongue.
Ah!
Oh, there we go.
I did it again.
Did it again.
Okay, so clearing up the board there and putting 11 attack down. That's really hard to be answered until the vanishes.
And this is always the frustrating thing with Quest Rogue, is when you've decided on what your game plan is. You said, okay, it's going to be the Balefin Tidehunters that are going to bounce back. And then the Igneous Elemental comes out and you're like, ah, well, that changes things ever so slightly.
It really does, and setting up a wall here is really difficult because of, I talked about this card earlier, Potion of Madness. Like, Greece's problem here is if they just play 2 Bilefins, it looks like it stodges things up. For instance, just Potion of Madness would just ruin that taunt and hit you in the face for 11.
Yeah, so it's whether you play just 1 Bilefin along with the Igneous and the Elemental, and then you've got the follow-up next turn of Bilefin into Vanish. Yes, okay, that's not going to complete your quest. You would only be playing it for... you could only complete it the next turn.
Just looking at the Vanish on the Brewmaster, it's just like... into the quest, into the
Yeah.
brewmaster.
Into double glimmer root. Into picking up another bounce back. I mean, it's never going to happen, but we can dream.
We never even got a team that played Murloc Quest to play the Murloc Quest. We're definitely not going to get a priest completing Caverns Below.
No. So next turn, of course, Deathlord can play his Balefin Tidehunter, then vanish, and then he'll have a Balefin Hunter for the next turn to complete the quest. But it is going to be 2 mana, so he's not going to be able to actually play it and complete it on the same turn. Needs preparation.
Right. One thing for people who don't believe, Gaskin, that this is a hard deck, watch these matches and watch how many rogue matches on both sides just go to the rope. You get some of the matchups and they go pew, 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 game over. Not many, but some. This one, they rope every turn on both sides because there's so many complex decisions to make.
If people don't believe me, I mean, this is one situation
I'm looking forward to
where,
how much abuse you get on
where
Twitter
I
later.
actually feel like pro players and pro casters are like, well, actually agree with me.
Yeah?
One of the very few moments where people agree with me.
Must be nice.
Yeah,
Let me know what it's like. I'm going to read your timeline later. Alright, so Kalento doing what Kalento does best, and that is just generating cards. That's a Dirty Rat.
Now, Dirty Rat can be absolutely amazing against Quest Rogue.
Why is that?
Because, Neil, it pulls out a minion that they, of course, can use for their quest. And that was what was one of the most defensive ways to approach Quest Rogue during the early parts of Ungoro. Then we found out that actually just playing Dirty Rat wasn't good enough because there's too many bounce back effects.
Right.
It can be very punishing, but it's not always like game breaking.
But if you've got the board like you have now and you pull the right minion, you can just turn it around for the time being. And Kalento doesn't need much time, although he's going to after this vanish happens.
Yeah, and that's going to make him burn a card as well, of course. Yeah, as we expected, the Balefin into the vanish will allow him to complete the quest next turn.
Hand is too full.
Medivh getting burnt as well. A little smile from Deathlord.
And then back to business.
Yeah.
Quick smile, and it's right. Right, now I've got to go back to shouting at my team.
So if this Dirty Rat does pull Balefin Tidehunter, then that is going to be quite significant.
Yeah, although obviously he has no board, so it's not like it was previously. But yeah, with the second vanish being the only way to get it back in hand, it will definitely buy some time. Right, it pulls the ooze.
Yeah, that's not what you want
Is
to
it ooze you lose?
Yeah, most definitely. And now it means next turn, Balefin into completing the Crystal Core. And if Kalento does leave this ooze up as well, that's going to turn into a 5/5. So do you have to use a Shadow of Pain? It feels bad, but if you think about it as a 5/5, 2 mana to clear a 5/5 is not
And
too
you're
bad.
never going to ever get to play the Shadow of Pain again.
Correct.
It's going to be completely useless for the rest of the game. So if you neglect it now, you've chosen to neglect it for the whole game. Can he get another bounce back effect? Just casually get backstab and use it, I imagine.
Backstab helps. 0 mana to remove a 5/5 is even a little bit better.
He played the Caverns Below.
I mean, why not at this point?
Deathlord's having a good laugh about that. Well, not because of Lyra, that's why not.
Yeah, yeah.
But don't yeah me. What does it do playing the Caverns Below now?
I mean, actually, if he had played the Cavern Below before he played the Glimmer Root, then there was a chance he could have got Glimmer Root into something, into Glimmer Root into something, into a bounce back effect.
Is that Priest the Feast? I think you don't play it. But it's Kalento. He's probably got a plan that I've yet to see. It's getting a bit awkward for him, though.
Yeah, we've not seen one of those Dragonfire potions, which are going to be very handy.
It feels like Rogue games feel like this. It feels like about turn 12 right now. Like you're thinking, oh, why doesn't he play the free from Amber? Because he's only got 7 mana, idiot.
You talking to yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just it happens to
Clarify.
thing that occurs.
Kalento doing what he can to keep this board, but unfortunately, it's a board that is going to continuously build up. Prep into Mimic Pod as well. Will allow him to search for more. You don't even need to prep
Might
it,
keep the
actually.
prep for the vanish for later
yeah.
now, yeah, because everything's going to cost 1 or 2. Good call.
Yeah. You say good call, but you kind of put the words in my mouth there.
No.
But yeah,
You know, He's got to sometimes.
Yeah. I'm glad we were on the same wavelength.
Yep.
Double Swashbuckler, that always helps as well. Just finding more answers. I mean, 1 mana 5/5s are great, but if you can also find tools for removal, even better.
Sure, one mana 5/5 with upside, why not? And this is where the priest is in a world of trouble, because half of the cards now useless, because they're designed to deal with the early game. So Potion of Madness, nope. Shadow of Pain, nope. And so now they're really relying on Mind Control, which is only ever ceiling a 5/5, which is pretty much a nope for 10 mana. When your opponent's paying 1 mana for it, doesn't feel very fair. And the priest just has this downward spiral a lot of the time from here.
So reluctancy to play Swashbuckler, perhaps to keep Patches in the deck, keep it as a charge, wait until they've got a bounce back and being able to use Patches to its full effect. Need to see a Dragonfire Potion, it's not there.
Might have to Harrison or might have to Free from Amber. What can we get from Free from Amber that saves the day?
You could get a 9/10 Taunt.
What you could do is get a Deathwing, then bounce it back to your hand with the Youthful Brewmaster that you used. Ysera, and pick up Awakens.
Ysera Awakens.
Does 5 damage to everything on the board.
Yeah, seems like the best pick there.
Mastodon kills off 2 5/5s. Kalento has been sneakily damaging.
There's Ysera Awakens. Grease could do with a bounce back here. Swashbuckler will bring out Patches, so that's already 20 damage. You can then vanish, and that's 25. So maybe we'll see prep into Mimic Pod first here.
Yeah, we've seen the backstabs twice now, so almost certainly no Boar in the deck. That's one of the substitutions. And this is why some people like to keep their Boar in the deck for exactly this situation.
Yeah, we're just trying to push that final little bit of damage. Speaking of...
But who needs Boars when you've got deck hands?
Plenty of damage, that's a full wham bam, thank you ma'am, 30 right to the face of Kalento. And Grease 2-0 up here.
Yeah, when 2 people play Caverns Below, the one who completes the quest first usually wins. And in this case, that was proved to be true.
Very true indeed. And now, Grease, well, they're doing what they needed to get done, Neil. I'm going to say they're halfway there. Just one more win.
It's
and
2/3.
Yeah, 2/3 is better. Yeah. I'm glad you can maths for me. Or math for me, should I say.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you're American.
Yeah, just a little bit. And yeah, 2-0. They need to get a third, so we'll take a look at what that's going to be. Who's going to be playing against each other? It's going to be Sabu versus Nick Chipper.
Nick Chipper. I subtle kind of laid into Nick Chipper, not deliberately when he was here, saying, well, Nick Chipper's the 4th best player on this team, but he'll be the best in any other team. He wasn't really laying into it, he was just making the point how good Ukraine were. Nick Chipper is a terrific player, as is Sibu, and one of the reasons I'm casting this game is because I'm supposedly, according to Sibu, I'm sort of Greece's lucky charm.
Wait, is that a thing?
That's actually a thing.
In that case, Norway should have definitely not got me to cast their game, because I've casted all of their games in this stage, and they've lost every single one.
It was like, who's casting the last one today? We were all talking about it, we weren't sure. And then I was in a stream, I don't know whose stream I was in, probably Fino's, I imagine, because he's Greek and I watch that a lot. And Sibu was like, are you casting? I go, I'm like, I don't know. He's like, cast it. I'm like, Sibu, I'm casting it. If you lose, it's your fault, not mine.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can blame Neil, actually. That's how it's going to work. One last fact, then. Last fact of the day from me. I've had a lot today. I apologise if you don't like them, but I love them, so it's been good
I like
fun.
them. They're good.
Greece have 2 tourists to every 1 civilized person that lives there.
Right. And where do they go, the tourists?
They look around. They look at the sponges. Did you know Greece also... the factory of sponges in Greece. They just make lots of sponge because they dive in, they get the resources, and they make sponge.
What do they dive into?
The water.
What, that surrounds the land?
Yeah, the sea.
The islands?
Yeah. You also get a little bit of that happening in America as well. There's a lot of Greek colonies in America that also do the same. They do the sponge diving. You can actually do it as a tourist if you are.
Where? In Greece?
In Greece, yeah. And there
so
are
you're not only a tourist, but you get... wow.
Yeah, I know.
Spongeception.
Yeah, you get to try out all the things. Maybe the last game of the day if Greece can take this one down. And if they do take this one down, then they are going to be moving on through to the last 16. It's Sabu, it's Nick Chipper, it's Pirate Warrior, and it's Discover Mage.
So for me, the Discover Mage in this one, it depends on their tech massively. They've got double volcanic potion, for instance. They're in a fantastic position. If they haven't, they can just get smashed in the face. And Alexstrasza plays a big part in this. You can't keep it because it costs 9 mana, but Alexstrasza, often behind a block, is the card that just gets you back into the game. And so Greece will be looking to not die early, get behind a block, Alexstrasza, and then win from there. In reality, sometimes you're half a turn short of doing that, though, because the pirates can get pretty nasty.
They can indeed, and Nick Chipper has a decent start as well. Of course, with N'Zoth's first mate. It always feels a little bit awkward when you've got N'Zoth's first mate into Fiery War Axe, as you're a little bit reluctant to just destroy off your Rusty Hook, but usually you do it anyway, because, I mean, why not play a War Axe on 2? Well, a Bloodsail Raider, maybe that's why you won't play it.
And now Ukraine have that perennial problem of getting around the potion, but not much really for Greece to do for a couple of turns. Makes things awkward for them.
Why? Because you could think about coining it out.
Yeah.
Do you?
You definitely think about it.
Yeah, you definitely think about it. I mean, you're punished by War Axe, right?
I think Counterspell lives a long time, so you don't have to panic. Normally, the valet behind a Counterspell, like the opponent just trigger the Counterspell straight away, and your valet goes, oh, damn, nothing but fire.
Yeah.
But I think against pirates, they usually just finish you off with their spells. And so you can probably pass this turn. Depends when you see yourself casting the glyph. You see yourself casting the glyph soon, you might as well coin out the valet or the glyph now.
And this is such an important game for Greece as well. I mean, I'm saying if they win 3-0, they're through. It starts to get messy if they were only to win 3-1. Because both themselves and Ukraine would be on a +2 round difference. And the tiebreaker after that is who you've beaten. It just gets a little bit messy, and then, of course, it comes down to head-to-head afterwards.
Yeah, so it goes down to who's tomorrow, and then they're behind on their head-to-head. Well, they're ahead on their head-to-head, but they've got to win the other tiebreaker, which they might not.
You want to make it through as clean as possible, so you can just sleep well tonight and not even worry about the Austria game tomorrow versus Peru.
There is nothing worse than sweating other people's games, and because of the way the third place thing works this time around, if you've left yourself in third place, everybody in third place pretty much is going to be sweating other people's games tomorrow. This isn't working out nicely for Greece. They've got all the low casting cost stuff, so they can make it work for them. But they've got to play around next turn being either a cultist or a frothing berserker. Yeah. So whatever they do now is that with that in mind. 3 Hearthstone cards to choose from, and I'm going to wager that they're mage spells.
Mage spells usually help. I mean, what could be good here? They could pick up a Frostbolt.
Volcanic Potion for 1 mana seems good.
Yeah, I think I prefer Frostbolt. I think another Volcanic Potion will be a little bit awkward.
Flame Strike will be okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
There's a Frostbolt.
We couldn't even see it, and it was there.
No, I couldn't see anyway. I'm sure you could.
I actually couldn't.
I know you couldn't.
Oh.
I just want to make you sort of angry. Right, not a very good hand suddenly for Ukraine, getting into kind of their third weapon if you count N'Zoth's first mate as well. And they're not going to be able to establish any minion pressure. Obviously, that's a whole bunch of damage if you count all the damage from the weapons. But you usually need some damage from your minions on top, something in the region of 10 to 13 damage. And at the moment, they're struggling to find that. So do you attack for 1 here, or do you attack for 3, given your Arcanite Reaper's coming down in 2 turns' time? There's the answer.
Yep. Before I even had a reason to debate either way, Nick Chipper showing that the face is the place. There's a Frost Nova as well. Okay, so Greece is starting to acquire the tools now. I don't know if you need the Volcanic Potion here, of course. You could just ping, you could play a Mana Worm alongside it. That Mana Worm can then deal with the other N'Zoth's first mate. Then you've got the Volcanic Potion for something, a board that's a little bit more substantial.
I like it. I think that Nick Chipper has to deal with the Mana Worm if it's played. And the only thing you might wait for them with Mana Worm is to play it alongside an Arcane Intellect, but then he's getting behind. I think you just stick it on the board. Thinking of Volcanic Potioning, and I understand the reasoning. There's 2 cards left in Ukraine's hand. They couldn't play either of them last turn because they wouldn't have done the weapon shenanigans. What else does the potion touch? Makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But that health total is rapidly diminishing.
It is, and you may have to use the fireball just to remove the Corcoran Elite here.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Still not got a ice block.
You're still 5 turns and actually having the card away from having Alexstrasza. Your Frost Nova doesn't touch all these charge minions.
The thing is, if you fireball now, the Arcanite Reaper take you down to 10.
You don't know, you've got to, yeah.
And then your only follow-up is what? Counterspell into Medivh's Valet, but then you're just dead from Arcanite and Leroy.
Yeah, they need to, I mean, we can see, I think they're going to lose this game. But
yeah.
From where they're sat, they've got to work out what they can beat. And they can beat, say, a Cultist and a Frothing Berserker by freezing them and doing those sort of things. So from where they're sat, that's interesting. That actually developed a better board. And they're not going to get a chance to freeze many things. That actually is really clever. But
they could really do with an ice block or an ice barrier, to be honest, rather than this counter spell. Well, that'll dig you one out.
It will, but I don't think they'll play it. I think they're going to have to take their chance. If you've got Leroy, we lose. Good luck. Because the next turn they're going to be in the same situation again if they play an ice block. Because you can't really do much. Maybe they can.
What to do? What to do?
Maybe it's okay. It's almost guaranteed to be a block.
Is there any way you can get away with it being a bluff? Probably not, because even if it isn't an ice block, you still break it anyway, right?
You know there's going to be more damage in hand, one way or another. You don't know what that damage is. Maybe they can find this. Yeah, Arcanologist into block, into trade. And you know that if they can proc you, they can't proc you on a good number. Maybe they find this.
Yeah, because then you can use the following turn counterspell plus Medivh's Ballet to clear up the Leroy.
Yeah, I mean it's obvious from where we're sat, but I think they can find this. But they go do it the counterspell way, which develops the bigger board. It also says please don't have Leroy, and it's only Leroy that does them. And all the other things like Heroic Strike do put them down to 1, which is fine because then you've got the block and chunks of 5 don't do 1. And it's all good. But wonder if Nick Chipper will even go for it though. It's Nick Chipper.
Yes,
Simu is not happy with that. He's like, how can he go for that? Why didn't he? If I've seen you do that exact thing.
What? Why didn't he take more time to consider his plays?
Why didn't he read into my bluff?
Well, no bluff is had, and Nick Chipper is going to start to worm the Ukrainians back into this series now. 2-1, and that will make the Ukrainians feel a little bit safer about their own progression towards the last 16. Of course, if they were to lose 3-0, it could have been them losing out on that top 2 place if Austria were to win tomorrow as well. So,
but now they're looking pretty good for it. If they get it even to 2-2, that'll be... I mean, it's basically in the bag anyway, but it'll be...
Yeah, I mean,
really, they'll sleep well.
From what we've seen, 2-1 now should be enough to take you through because we've seen a couple of people finish 3rd place as 1 and 2. But regardless, we go into game 4, and it's going to be Paladin versus Rogue. And we've spoke a couple of times already about Paladin today and where it's at, and we've also said that Rogue now seems to be Quest Rogue is the only way to go. We've not seen any Miracle. Why do you think Miracle's just disappeared?
Because it's bad.
All right, next subject, then.
I think the Miracle was... It rose up through the meta because it was a good way to deal with Shaman, which doesn't traditionally do very well against Quest Rogue. And Shaman went absolutely berserk for about 2 weeks, say 3 or 4 weeks ago. So Miracle was a way of having a deck that played... I mean, Miracle's fun to play. It's not much fun to play against, but it's fun to play. People like it. And it dealt with the best deck in the format at the time. So that's why it came up. But it's done its job. Those pesky Shamans are back down to a reasonable level. So go back to playing the really powerful deck.
Yeah, the really powerful deck that is soon to be nerfed, of course. And it's something that I'd like to speak more about because you've asked for my opinion on how I feel about the Quest Rogue nerf, Neil. But how do you feel about the Quest Rogue nerf?
Honestly, it sounds like a cop-out. My opinion is very similar to yours. I felt personally, I didn't mind it. I thought it was leading to interesting tournaments. But also, if it's upsetting players and it's a legit... Like, Blizzard have a very good feeling of what the majority of the player base are hating. Not what the 1% who read forums and stuff are thinking, but what the 90% are thinking, who are the silent majority.
If you've got players at rank 18 stopping to play the game because they're facing constant quest rogues and getting frustrated, then that is a problem, and regardless of how the top of the top might feel.
It's not a nerf, I think, much either way about in terms of balance. It's like, but I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see they're willing to nerf stuff, to be honest. If they think it's right to nerf it and they're doing that, I think that's a really good step.
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction and shows the kind of bond between the community and Blizzard, which I think is important to have in any game.
Yeah, it bodes well for the future. Like, one of the constant complaints over the years, things don't get nerfed quick enough. Well, I think this is quick enough.
Yeah.
There'll be people who say, oh, it should have been a month ago. No, it shouldn't. Quest Rogue wasn't stomping up and down the ladder forever. I mean, there's been the most diverse meta ever. I think it's a brave decision. It'll be interesting to see where it ends up. Will
be very interesting. On the other side for Paladin then, we've noticed in some of the HCT lineups, I think it was Muzzy's list, he's got Crazed Alchemist in his list now. We've got Onyxia turning up. Onyxia rather than Deathwing. Now, I understood Deathwing being put into control decks because it was just another way of A, getting rid of aggro, or just a panic button. However, Onyxia seems to be very much targeting a control matchup, going against a controller.
Yeah. Whenever Onyxia comes into decks, I always sit there and go, swipe. Because it just never... It's only one card, but it just... The one ones don't do anything. I'd rather just have Deathwing, personally. But that's my opinion on it. But I'm sure that the players who are putting Onyxia in their decks have far more superior reasons than I do.
Well, there's some people using Deathwing, some people using Onyxia. It seems to be down to personal preference. So Quest Rogue for Nerea then, and of course the Paladin for Like a Boss.
Like a Boss. Guess where he likes to go in Greece?
Like a Boss?
Yeah.
The supermarket.
He does. And then he takes what he buys to any island at all. And because they're ideal to relax or have fun alike, depending on what you like to do. So you can either relax or have fun on any island. There's a theme amongst the Greece players. There's only 3 of them replied, and they all said, go to an island and chill.
Well, it seems like they have to take themselves away from competing because they seem to shout at each other quite a lot in game. So then when they're out of the game, they go and relax. And they go and vent, and they just get back. And,
tell the nature that Like a Boss dude earlier today.
I wish he hadn't played that Murloc on turn 1.
Told him not to.
Wish he hadn't traded with that fledgling.
Talking of Murlocs on turn 1, this curve of Tide Caller into Rockpool Hunter into Murloc War Leader, if it wasn't going to get smashed apart by pirates, would be really good.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting decision from Ukraine here, actually, and Nerea to just take the initiative and say, we're going to put stuff on the board that can deal with any of your early pressure.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about, do you play Flame Elemental, which is a bit of a harder choice on turn 1.
The Firefly, yeah.
The Firefly, sorry, yeah, into Flame Elemental.
Yeah.
My bad. But yeah, they just gone straight with this. It's like, here's some stuff. Play your Tide Caller now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a risk in that you're throwing away 2 of your charges that are potentially 5/5s later, but it's a way that you can win this game because it is a pretty unfavorable one. Certainly the aggressive Murloc Paladin is a great tool to just absolutely delete Quest Rogues from the server.
Stone Tusk Boar. Interesting. Have a look, actually, if they're playing boars or not in their HCT decks. Kalento is playing boar. Nerea is not playing boar. And today, Nerea is playing boar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that shows about kind of collaboration from teams.
Yeah, it sure does. It also shows how close a call it is, whether they play boar or not. Because if Nerea really didn't want a boar and he was that set, he'd be like, nah.
Yeah. But Kalento probably had a little nudge whilst he was there with him and just said, okay, we can play this one.
Sure.
Just for this turn. This game.
This turn.
This is just this turn. One turn. Just for this game.
All right. They're going to have another go with this Tide Caller. This one's going to stick a little bit longer.
A little bit longer, yeah. I mean, it can be dealt with, of course. Yeah.
It's not going to stick much longer at all.
Even better way to deal with it. I really like backstabbing, trading him with your hero power, your dagger, and then probably playing Caverns into Glacial Shard, freezing the Rockpool Hunter, then bouncing the Glacial Shard back.
And this is what's so difficult about the Rogue deck that we keep saying. We're trying to say why it's difficult. It's difficult because they're going to have no cards in hand after this next turn.
Yeah, you need to take that risk of, I think I'm going to draw a little bit more bounce back, and then I can continue to use this Glacial Shard.
Right. And the top players have learned to play that risk-reward when your deck is full of very similar cards. You can do that. We say about Druid, that's another deck that's full of very similar cards. They either draw cards or they're big jades. This either draws cards, bounces things, or is a one-cost minion. In simple terms, obviously. Before people go, oh, there's other cards in the deck. You being people.
I am the people. We are the people, Neil, and we will fight whatever you say.
Don't worry, I'm used to it. Alright. Obviously, it's a lot of discussion going on here about how to proceed, but looking like they're going to go with effectively your play. Obviously, they don't need to force through any damage if they don't need to. It's all about the long term and how they can make sure they win this game.
In theory, they don't need to bounce back the Glacial Shard as well if they're not worried about any damage.
Consecration makes a right mess of their face here, though.
It does if it was turn 4. But they don't have to worry about it when it's
only turn 3. I looked at the mana, it said 3, and I looked back up, and it was still 3.
Sometimes with the spectator mode, it's a little bit delayed on the other side.
Because I swear, I normally don't make excuses when I cast, but on that occasion I'm going to.
Because basically, like a boss, saw the turn end before we saw Naria end it. So it's okay, I got you back.
Cheers.
It's not very often I will, but when I do, I will be there for you, Neil. All right?
Thanks, Dan. It's appreciated.
Okay, great. Sunkeeper Tarim does, of course, very often pop up. It is a way to deal with 5/5s.
It's a very good way as well. And that's what they're going to go for. Not a fan?
Not a fan. It's a prep. Don't think they run Fan Knives in this deck.
Okay.
But I'm also not a huge advocate of preparation there.
Doesn't look very good at this point. But
It doesn't.
Could soon change things around.
It could, but what do you go for? Shadow Step, the Glacial Shard, Freeze Off, Mr. Rock Pool Hunter, and then you just wait. And it's not a waiting game you really want to play.
I don't think Like a Boss wants to play it. He's fallen asleep. Talking waiting games, he's just literally fallen asleep.
Like a Boss, clearly, we know his opinion on the Quest Rogue nerf and how he feels.
I can wait for Logan to start shaking him.
I loved how...
Oh, it's my go, is it? Okay, sure.
I loved how he just, just heard this turn arrive and he just, oh, okay, well, yeah, better get back to playing some Hearthstone.
It's only Hearthstone Global Games, you know.
Yeah, it's not like your whole tournament is on the line
You're
right now.
paying for an absolute fortune. Was it $60,000 first prize or something? Yeah, it is that, exactly.
Great gag. Great gag. I like it.
I like a Boss. He's one funny person.
This should be...
I say how much mana he's got.
This should be a comfortable game now.
Yeah.
Greece. Just looking at the hand from Naria anyway.
The only way Naria gets out of it is by bouncing shards and not dying that way, or...
Yeah, he needs to draw a bounce back.
Mimic pod into something really useful.
To be sure.
He needs to draw another bounce back right about now. There you go.
There's one.
All right, so your hope is still alive. You just need to draw bounce back into bounce back. And hope you've not died by that time.
Meanwhile, Greece are going to be able to get Finger down, and they're going to put Spikeridge Steeds upon the Finger.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, is it's all well and good completing the quest, but by that time you're probably dead. No way to deal with this War Leader either.
Yeah.
Still doing nothing. I mean, if you're really worried... right, okay.
I'm bearing with you.
You bear with me. If you're really scared about how much damage you're taking, you could freeze another minion here. Yes, okay, your Glacial Shard's going to die. I mean, probably the War Leader.
Why?
Because it does more damage.
Right, but if you freeze the other one, the War Leader can't trade into your minions. Because it would die.
True.
You're right, though.
But of course, it makes far more sense to keep the Glacial Shard, and I was just being hypothetical.
I realise, because we're just waiting for this turn, along with Like a Boss.
Because, I mean, we spoke about it, sometimes you have to take the risk of, well, I might draw my second Glacial Shard. It's a very big risk, and you only really need to do it in very dire situations. We're not quite there yet.
So, how do Greece lose this, do you think? Look, we've got all the tools we can see, and they can't see what Navier's got in hand. What will they be playing around? I suspect they're playing around complete a quest into charge.
Vanish is something that can do them over a little bit. If they decide to commit a Finger that's just going to be doing nothing to this board at this current state, and then a Vanish comes down, they have to start all over again.
That's a good point.
However, if they just Gentle Megasaur and get a little bit of damage out here, a little bit of health, they won't be too annoyed at Vanish coming through.
Prep, Vanish, Glacial Shard, etc. is actually quite reasonable looking here for Ukraine, but we can see there's no consecration, of course. Ukraine have to play around that if they do draw the Vanish. If they don't draw the Vanish, they're going to lose.
Yeah, I think Vanish is how you now win this game.
Biofin is good after the Vanish. Like, really good, because it allows you to get multiple minions multiple times. But you've got one turn left if you're Ukraine. Well, you've got this turn and your next turn, most likely. And Greece have got all they need on the board right away. They don't really need to do anything more than keep the minions they have now, maybe add one minion to the mix. Let's talk about Spike Witch Steed. You don't really panic about the fact it might get vanished because it doesn't come back down anyway. There's no point saving it, there is no later anyway.
You just want to push as much damage as possible now if you're like a boss. So if you see the Spike Ridge Steed as an extra 2, you just push it.
Yeah, you just got to decide whether you think Rockpool Hunter and Wicker Flame is just a better way of doing it. The Wicker Flame will defend your War Leader in a lot of circumstances.
Should I?
So if you do push 14, you get them down to just 5. Let's say they do get a Vanish out. Is there still a way back in this game for Ukraine? I'm guessing Glacial Shard into Prep, into Vanish.
The number of times I've said, nah, Vanish isn't enough, and then it actually
sometimes it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not willing to sit here and say, no, Vanish isn't enough, because just sometimes crazy things happen because they get so much tempo from the Vanish and repopulating the board. That's a shallow step. Don't think that's going to be enough to save them.
No, you can freeze 2 things.
And play 1 taunt.
My sincerest thanks.
Like a boss thinks it's over.
So you can freeze 2 5-attack minions. There's then 7, 9 left on the board. You can play 1 taunt.
Yeah.
So actually, there is still a way you potentially survive this. You can also use...
But we can see the Spike Witch Steed.
Yeah.
But they can't, so they're going to...
You have to play... Well, we have to consider it, of course, from what they can see.
Tarim or Spike Witch Steed will be enough. I think.
So, just like that, the quest is completed, and now you use the Stone Tusk 4 to actually take out this Wicker Flame. And that does just leave 7 damage, available. And you're down to just 4. But there you go, trading into the War Leader effectively. So, okay, not the War Leader, that's fine. You're in a good spot. You're in a decent spot. This is
I didn't realise they could get so much down.
Well, this is what Quest Road could do, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that extra Stone Tusk Spore and having the charge. I must admit, I didn't consider using the face as an option of trading into the Wicker Flame, just naturally because you were so low. Being able to get rid of that Divine Shield was, of course, so important.
Like a boss, not looking so boss-like right now.
No.
I feel like Tarim's kind of the play here. Your opponents have no cards in hand, so you have perfect information. If you Tarim and trade, your Tarim...
You trade first. No. Nah. Because the thing is, you've got those plants. No, okay, you play the game of...
yeah,
you play the game of removing 1 minion, and you hope there isn't enough damage on the board. Because there are 2 taunts available, this can't be pushed through by Naria. Of course, Naria can trade in. Unfortunately, there's not a situation where you can use your Stone Tusk Spore to trade and then bounce it back and play it again. You'd have to go face with that Stone Tusk Spore before you traded it.
At some point as well, Boss is going to pick up a weapon. So all he has to do is maintain the status quo, which is odd, right? Because normally it's the rogue that's doing that. But all Boss has to do is to not die. He does have Tarim at any time to try and get 6 through, 2 lots of 3.
Boss is saying this game's over, by the way. He thinks this is totally over. The fact that he's got those 1/1s that are going to turn into 3/3s from his Sunkeeper Tarim, which is the reason why he didn't play the Tarim last year. He feels in a very comfortable spot. And so he should.
And so he should.
Although, it was looking a little bit worrying.
It was, but We've seen all of the outs, obviously.
Well played.
Tarim then will be enough to finish this game off and put Greece at 2-1 in the league table, winning this 3-1.
Yeah, with a +2 game difference as well, they should be good to go. I'm not going to 100% it, but...
Well, that's both Ukraine and Greece at +2 game difference now. So it does mean that if Australia fail to get to 2-1 and a +2 game difference, then both of those will qualify anyway.
Australia.
Austria, for goodness sake, I've called them Australia far too often. If Austria don't get a +2 difference and 2-1, it means Greece and Ukraine will be moving through. But as we've already mentioned a couple of times, 2-1 should be enough to send you through, regardless as probably a 3rd place finisher.
Yeah, my pick, Greece, going through to the top 16.
You had 2 picks. You can't have... One of your picks went out today, or yesterday.
Yesterday?
Hearthstone yesterday. Today.
Wow, it's not been that long. Yeah, so one of my picks getting through to the top 16. How many of your picks got through?
Well, yeah, Ukraine, one of my picks as well now, apparently, because we're allowed 2 picks. So I'll say, yeah, they're probably going to go through. As we see all the classes that were played, Greece, a very positive performance from them.
Yeah.
3-1. Nick Chipper was able to chip away at the total of Greece, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, as Like a Boss did come in like a boss to finish it off.
Nice, he did indeed. And the community spirit again from Greece there, even if they do shout at each other, apparently. Going pretty well for them.
All right, well, let's see how they're feeling after the game. I believe Logan and Like a Boss are there for an interview. Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Hello, it's Logan. It's not Like a Boss next to me.
Yes, he is. You guys, I mean...
It's time for Logan to speak.
We were looking at a lot of your information that you provided for HGG, and you said that a lot of your outside time activities involve going to islands and relaxing. Is there a lot of relaxation outside your team?
Yeah, I guess we relax a lot, but every Sunday we prepare for the games. That's our game plan.
Every Sunday. It's very specific.
Yeah, for like 2 hours.
And obviously,